afternoon. It is 2 p.m. on a Thursday, which means we are here with Scouching Live. Welcome to the show. Of course, I am Will. I am the guy that runs the show. I am the man who is on his own today once again because Mr. AJ Jadero is doing his job, and that's okay because I love to hang out with the people on my own. I get to say whatever I want, and AJ can't stop me, slow me down, disagree with me, you know. And he doesn't have to, spout whatever's coming to his mind. So, it's a nice change of pace. But welcome to the show. I, of course, am Mr. Will Scouch. I'm excited to be here with you all. I've been hard at work. Obviously, we did a show just the other night on Tuesday. I'm relatively fresh in your minds, so to speak. But there's nothing wrong with that. What's happened in the last couple of days? I shorted some quantum computing stocks, and so far that's turned out okay as of today. So that was fun. I've never shorted a thing before, but we're experimenting. And what a story that's been. You can look into it. It's pretty wild. So that's been the exciting stuff in my life over the last couple of days. But in that sense, what else have I done? I mean, I've been busy tracking guys. We took a look at a few more players. I've watched some NHL stuff. The Jays pounded the crap out of the Seattle Mariners in Seattle last night. So I'll be tuning in for Game 4 of that because, boy, if the Jays can pull that one off, might have to shell out and go to Game 5. If I think it's in Toronto, right? Those games. Anyway. I'm excited to be here. What else has been going on? Mostly just tracking guys. I did make some, I'm sure all of you are aware, I have made one shift to the display here. I figured, no sense having the YouTube chat in the stream window when it's literally right next to the stream window in your YouTube accounts. So I replaced it with where my rankings are as of today. I will also say, there are a number of players that a lot of people have really high that I have not gotten enough information on to put them this high. These are all players that I have seen. These are all players I have data on. These are all players that I have really enjoyed watching. All of them, I would say. And we're going to go from there. It's October, so if you clip it, put it on the internet as if this is some sort of, final thing, shame on you, because I'm nowhere near confident in this, but just so you have an idea of where my eyeballs are focused and what I'm looking at and who's kind of where, I figured it would be nice to, put it up for all of you to see. And again, if you're a viewer of the show, but you haven't watched this season yet or anything, welcome back. It's obviously very nice to see you. We are going to try to, keep up with the chat a lot better than last year. It was more first half pre-planned, second half chat questions, which, what other internet show does that? Not very many. So, let's have a conversation. It's more fun that way. Some of the guys I've taken a look at in the last couple of days, let's see here. I've done Adam Anderson just before this. Actually, I hit the bike and showered before this. But before that, I took a look at Adam Anderson. Prior to that, I did a game of Ilya Morozov. So, Dayton, I see your question about him. I'll get to him in just a second. Other than that, I've done... Actually, I think those guys were before Tuesday. Yesterday, I did games of Adam Valentini, Thomas Vandenberg, Zach Nyman. So, if the totally unbiased Steelheads fan pops in here and whatever and drops a message, there you go. I looked at your Bobby Orr boy yesterday. Did I say Thomas Vandenberg? Yes, I did. But that's really been it since Wednesday or since Tuesday night. So, we're chugging along. We're getting there. I'm following up on some other guys that I tracked early in September over the next couple of days. Yaroslav Fedoseev, I did Albert Smits already. Juho Piparainen, and Simas Ignatievičius, the Lithuanian playing in Switzerland. So I'm going to follow up on those guys before the end of this week because I was intrigued by what they brought to the table in September, and I want to take another look in the near future on them. So let's just dive right into today. I will also say I think this might be the first time in years, maybe, I've done this show not wearing a hoodie. I don't know about anybody else, but as I get older into my 30s, when I work out or something and I'm like, giving her, I do a hard 30 minutes on the bike, hard 30, 40 minutes on the bike. And my body does not cool down for 2 hours. Like if I shower and it is nothing but cold water, I'm okay. I'm okay now, but I'm not wearing a hoodie because I'm too revved up. I'm too hot. So I figured I'd go with the LL Bean, Canadian classic, what fabric, corduroy, maybe. I don't know what what fabric this is, but we're going, t-shirt and an over shirt, I guess you could say, real casual, real 1993 style in here. So first time in years, really excited about that. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else is like that, but into your 30s and you work out and you shower in anything but cold water, I'm disgusting for like an hour and a half afterwards, which kind of nullifies the point of showering at that point. You may as well just hop right back in. So cold water showers are now a thing in my life, which were not a thing, I'd say 2 years ago, which maybe even a year ago. So there's that. And sometimes I like to use this channel as a chronological record of my aging process, right? Which, what else is the internet for, right? If you're an internet streamer. But anyway, let's get into what we're talking. Let's get into the questions here. And again, I'm an open book. Fire away, hockey related, whatever. We're here for a couple of hours and we're gonna have some fun. Thoughts on Ilya Morozov? Yeah, I mean, I did just see him today, so good on you for calling on that one. I think Morozov is really interesting in the sense of being a good projectable physical center. He's a guy that I could see being a late first round pick, but I'm not holding my breath. I mean, I feel somewhat similarly to him as I did about like a Will Horkoff. Like if you want a guy like that in the late first, I could see it, but I think there's going to be better players that I might want that have a little bit more in the tank than him. But I mean, look, he's a good projectable physical center. He threw some hits that mattered. They made a difference in terms of the flow of the game. He scored a goal and had an assist, but I don't think either were like super high-end plays that indicate some sort of offensive upside. He's not the most skilled guy in the world, but he kind of makes it work. It's more about like puck protection and board work and going to the net and all that basic stuff that you do need in a player, or at least a certain type of player. So if we're talking like big, pressure-absorbing, simple but effective, guy, then I'm all for it. And I think that could be where he fits. I mean, I will also say, like, the other guy that he kind of reminds me of, or the other guy that I looked at today, Adam Anderson, is, I would argue, a more intriguing option. I think his skating ability for a big guy like that, he's 6'4" and really young. I think he's a June birthday. Like he turned 17 like 5 months ago, right? No, June is the 6th month. It is the 10th. So 4 months ago, less. He turned 17 and he's 6'4". And not to be like the, if you don't draft big guys, you're a loser card, but like he's a good player. Like really good puck protector, really good flow and skating ability to his game, pretty good skill too, that I could see him sort of getting around guys really creatively and all of that. And I just would love to see him push the middle of the ice a little bit more, attack guys one-on-one a little bit more, work chip and chases a little bit more, or protect the puck a little bit more often and really challenge opponents to try to generate a little more offense. Because that was kind of where I kind of went, yeah, I don't know. But as a center and a middle six, third line kind of projection, like I would easily put my name beside Adam Anderson based on what I saw today and what I've seen going back to last year on him. Always been really intrigued by him, but I was impressed by the game I saw I was impressed by the game I saw today. Thoughts on Beckham Edwards? Isaias, welcome to the subscription plan. I saw you joined the Discord server, so I will message you with details on how to get an account on the website, because I can't tether Scouching.ca to a YouTube membership plan, so I have to give you a code for a free account and then go from there. So I'll message you whatever. But anyway, thank you very much for hopping on board. It's good to welcome, and I'm happy to see you here. It's good. I don't know, but thank you. I watched Beckham Edwards not too long ago. Actually, I watched him in the Scouching server, and I think it was just AJ who was there, but there might have been someone else. And we watched a game of his, and I tracked the data from that game. And Edwards is fine. I mean, I never. The thing about him is he strikes me as one of these guys that's from the CHL and plays like a bottom six NHLer, but that is a tricky projection, because being a sort of smart, position focused, go with the flow type centerman who can, chip in defensively here and there, that's a good profile to have for the OHL in a certain role. But in terms of an NHL projection, those guys always give me a little bit of the heebie-jeebies. Like, he's a guy who, hunts for open space in the offensive zone, and he's a goal-scoring center. Like, he's a goal-scoring forward. He can score for sure. But he checks a lot of the boxes where I go, it really depends on where we're drafting this guy, but it's like he's one of the tricky ones where it's not that I don't like him as a player. I think he's a pretty solid overall player, but I'm not convinced of like super high-end upside really. And so for me, it's like, when is he going to be among the top names on my list? And he's one of these guys early on, at least this year, where I look at him and I go, I just don't know when that's going to happen. And if that happens, then great. I guess I could see it from here, but I don't know. We'll see how it works. But interesting player, but I didn't see like a super high end NHL, future name really. But he's smart. If there's some good development there, that off puck anticipation he has and the sort of simple approach to the game and methodical could be a thing. But I'm not sure exactly where he goes from here. Thoughts on Will Horkoff? I kind of went over it with Ilya Morozov. I had Horkoff a lot lower than where Pittsburgh drafted him. And I just never felt like he looked like a first round pick to me. He's a pressure absorbing player, and he's definitely very, very big. And definitely can, he has some moments where you see him move around with the puck on his stick and you go, that's intriguing. That's intriguing. But he always sort of struck me as like a bottom six center who, is physical enough, who can skate okay, but is more reliant on like physical pressure and puck protection and sort of slowing and grinding the game down a little bit, which is okay. That's a thing that you can do in hockey and be successful. It's just not my thing, right? Like for a first round pick, it's just not my thing. So that's fine to me. A late first round pick last year in that class. I could see where you're coming from on the logic on that. I just don't really see things the same way. But he's a decent player. Like, I feel like he'll be an NHL player. I could very easily see him be part of the Penguins in a couple of years, because they're gonna be a young team. Like, the way the trajectory is, it's already happening, but the Penguins are seemingly in the middle of like becoming younger, and I feel like Horkoff could very easily, at least while they're sort of on the up, be a guy that's given an option or a potential job in the bottom six there. I think it makes sense. It's just he's not a super high priority player type to me in the first round. Thoughts on Oliver Moore's 2-goal game? If it makes me look smart, it's correct. And I agree with it. If it makes me look smart, I agree with it. And Oliver Moore doing well makes me look smart, because I love Oliver Moore to death. I hope he's up with Chicago in the near future. I don't know exactly what job he would do for them that would warrant calling him up, but I just love seeing him in the NHL last year. I thought he was so much fun to watch, and he's, I think, a big thing that they need there. I think he's a really big part of what Chicago needs a little bit more of in order to sort of help turn the corner. I don't know if he's there yet, but I think he certainly could be. I don't know if I would take him away from the center position. I don't know if he's been playing center in the AHL, but like that skating ability and that ability to run the play up the ice, like I always felt that he could be a very interesting alternative to Frank Nazar up the middle for a guy like Connor Bedard, right? Like two speedy guys who, you know, you put a physical sort of net front guy offsetting those two, and you just go to town. I don't know exactly what that means. You know, if you're a Chicago fan, you know the team better than me. It would be really tough to pull Nazar off of that lineup. But okay, so he's been playing wing, right? Like I think I think he can do it. But for me, the big thing with him was the big open ice sort of skating ability that really, really, really helps. I love the kid. I think he's a great player. And as at least two-way center in your top 9, I think there's a role there, and I think that you give him, the more rope you give him, the better you'll be rewarded. You know, he just plays the game the right way, and really the only issues I think are once the puck's in the offensive zone, he can sometimes make some decisions where you kind of just go, yeah, we need to tweak that was a bit of a wasted opportunity. This was, you know, this and this and this, you turned it over because of this. And when you know, like the pull up on the half wall, trying to shake off the opponent, and they just stick a stick out poke check and the puck's coming the other way when you might want to just chip it into the corner, and you're Oliver Moore, so go chase after it, go get it because you're Oliver Moore. You know, get more work down low, I guess is what I'm saying, would be nice out of Oliver Moore. But at the end of the day, I love him, and yeah, so good player. Did you catch the Hawks versus Blues? I did not. I saw the game scorecard afterwards for those teams. It was bad, for the Blues especially. I mean, I don't know. It was a tough one. You know, I didn't watch the game, but a couple of people in the Discord server last night were talking about how the Blues just this year have not looked very good, which is a little surprising to me, I suppose, like especially because of their forward group. I mean, I've never been a huge Logan Mailloux fan. I've never been a huge Tyler Tucker fan. They've still got like Colton Parayko and Justin Falk out there, and those guys wait, Justin Falk is still there, right? Or am I making that up? Yeah, he is. I mean, like, that's tough. That's a tough defense group. That was kind of the question mark for me, but I thought, you know, I guess they'll score their way out of stuff, and so far that has not been the case. Yeah, I mean, Logan Mailloux, again, plus minus is not a very good stat, but sometimes it is indicative of a trend. Nobody else on the team is worse than a -3 to this point, except Logan Mailloux, and he's a -7. And that's, to me, like, that's... And when you've seen... And when I've been watching Logan Mailloux every year, pretty much here and there, because number one, you have to, and number two, I really did not really like him as a draft eligible, but there was potential in his game. It's just, it was a long way away, and that long way away I don't think has gotten much closer, because it's not a question of skating ability and finishing ability. Like, that's, again, it's like when I look at defensemen who score a ton, it's like you have to be really careful, because those things for a defenseman are a nice bonus, but it's not the job, right? Like, day to day, game after game, like, it's not their job really to be that rifle point shot presence, right? I think it's more about defense first and breakouts and all of that stuff. And I found Mailloux, if he wasn't breaking the puck out himself using his feet, then he was not really a reliable option. And that seems to be catching up to him a little bit. I don't know why St. Louis traded Zach Bolduc for him, and I'm not even the biggest Zach Bolduc fan. I don't know why they're playing Mailloux so much. I don't really get it. You know, I saw Jim Montgomery say he had a good defensive stick, and it's like, I guess you're trying to just pump his tires when things are tough publicly, but I don't know. It's tricky. It's tough. And so for St. Louis to struggle, on one hand, I'm a little surprised because they've got so many really interesting names up front that I think could really help them. I mean, Philip Broberg did not have a very good night, but like he was good last year. Holloway was a revelation. They've got Alex Texier on the team, Kyrou, Thomas, Shen, Buchnevich, Snuggerud, Neighbors. All these guys are all solid players. So I imagine hopefully that it turns around, but also I'm looking, and having two goaltenders under an .860 save percentage is not a good start, but statistically that probably isn't super sustainable, so hopefully they win a few games in the next little while and things regress a little, but that's pretty nuts. Would you take Teddy Stiga or Colin Potter on your team if you had to choose? That's a very good question. Probably Stiga, because of the sort of defensive ability that he has. I would love a little bit more of that defensive might and energy from Potter, because he has the speed to overcome his size deficiency like Stiga does. Like, that's the thing. I always go back to, the kinetic energy equation, right? A half MV squared, right? What matters more to the kinetic energy that an object carries? Mass or velocity? It's velocity by an extraordinary amount, right? Like a half mass times the velocity squared. So as velocity increases, you get exponential increases in speed. As mass increases, you get less than a 1-to-1 relationship and increases in kinetic energy. So if you can skate real quick and you're only a few pounds less than the next guy, or a couple of inches, and you lose 10, 15 pounds here and there, you can overcome that deficiency pretty easily. And I think Stiga understands that a little bit more, and I would love to see it more out of Potter. But Potter, it's also because like he's a center, you maybe just don't see it as much. He's more of a positional sort of open ice transition guy, which is fine. But yeah, it's a tough call. I mean, I love both of those players. Would you rather McKenna or Hagens? I think, oh man, I might say McKenna. I just think the upside is incredible. Not that it isn't with Hagens. I think Hagens brings more value in more spots, but the raw offensive ability of Gavin McKenna, even at the NCAA level, is insane, right? Like the offensive zone playmaking with McKenna, like I'll be very curious to see what things look like at the end of the year in terms of the data and the video and everything, but it really seems like he knows how to connect on very risky passes in the offensive zone, right? Like he knows how and where to place the puck to get through bodies and sticks to a forward on the far side of the post. Like his ability to see and create a play in the offensive zone is ridiculous. Hagens, there wasn't as much like finesse to it, and there was a little bit more like haphazard, high pace, just throw it out in front energy from him. Now, would I rather have Hagens transitioning the puck up the middle of the ice, working give and goes reliably? Maybe, but I feel like that's pretty close. But the Hagens reliability, I think, is is very valuable. But McKenna's like, I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I just think, you know what? I'd rather have McKenna and develop him and work with him and get, try to get on his level and improve him than Hagens. But again, like that's pretty close. Like if they were both eligible this year, they would be very close on the list. But I probably would have McKenna, as of what I've seen of him so far this year, I probably would have McKenna a spot or two higher. Like it would be so close. And I think there's an argument for either, but McKenna is, I just bet on the brain that he's got. Like that, I don't know how he does it, but he manages to do it, and we'll see. I don't know. I hope Kasper Karlsson is as good as his name is. Yeah, I mean, Justavara Karlsson is another one I need to circle back on. Actually, him and Håkansson are guys that I need to do another game of before the end of the month. I mean, Justavara Karlsson is a long shot, I would say, but he is he is a jerk. Like, I love how he plays. Like, he's 5'8", 5'9", which is not ideal, and he definitely, he needs to be going full tilt to be effective, and on the puck going full tilt. The skill is not really there yet to be an offensive threat, but that's not to say he's not very effective in the SHL. He just kind of has a role that he's pretty good at that level right now. And I mean, watching him last year, I kind of wanted a little bit more jam and a little bit more grease in his game, and that's pretty much all I saw at the SHL level that was moving the needle. So I don't know. I don't know if he's just like friggin' crushing everything that moves in order to make sure, that they, in order to make sure that he stays in the lineup. We'll see. But I really like watching him play. He's a lot of fun. He just screams guy that will maybe be a 6th round pick and be a flyer from a team, and maybe there's a thing there, but I have no love. I have no certainty, but I just like him. You know, he gets the I just like him award among questions so far today. Hello, Alexandre. How are you doing? I hope you're well. Thoughts on Hage and Żurawski's impressive starts? Do you like Hage's upside as a second-line center? Yeah, I mean, I always kind of felt Michael Hage was going to be a middle six center. You know, like if Michael Hage is your third-line center on a contending team, I think you're doing really well. You know, I think if he's your second-line center, that's a pretty decent role for him, I think, and you can lean a little more offensively. Maybe he's on your second power play unit or even your first one. I don't know. Maybe not in Montreal, considering what they've got, but you never know. But Hage, I mean, I saw him yesterday watching Adam Valentini, and he looked great, right? Like the skating ability, the skill level, like just the raw ability is so high with him. That I think that, you know, like I would have if his name came up where the Canadians drafted him, I would not have had a problem going for it. Cause also like it just screams Montreal Canadiens draft pick because he's a huge fan of them. Like, you know, everything sort of the stars kind of aligned on it, and it just kind of makes sense. With Żurawski, I haven't really. That's a guy that I need to watch. I think maybe the next time the Scouching community gathers for a party to watch some guys, he might be on that list because I'm curious to see how it looks. With Żurawski, like again, I have evidence. You know, last September I went to Dylan Griffin and I was like, "What is this guy all about?" Because he just constantly was cooking and making things happen, and I think he just got kind of better and better as the year went on, more confident. You know, this guy. I always felt that if the NHL draft were like a bet on creativity and raw upside, he would probably have been around for me where the Habs had him. Reportedly, I think that's what I think Hughes said he had him. They had him at like 17 or 18 or something like that. And so it's like, yeah, I mean, I could see where you're coming from on that. I don't know if I would agree, but like, there are certain areas of this draft class where, from what I've seen, like he looks like one of the more intriguing options out there, and so a second round pick, sure, you know, it's your third. What was was he the third guy they drafted or something like that? Maybe not. I don't remember. But I mean, I like him quite. Oh no, he was the first guy they drafted. I think it was just outside the first round, and I don't think they had. Anyway, the point is, good player. But for me at the time, it was like, okay, but he's playing on the by far best team on paper in the Russian East Division, in the lower half of the East Division. And so and just watching the video back on him, like you can go back and look at the report, like it just really felt like tougher defensive pressure is gonna stymie him a little bit without like truly elite skating ability, which I'm not sure he has. But he's a factory of generating offense. And so, you know, the KHL in terms of defensive play is also pretty soft, generally speaking. I think guys get away with a lot more there than they would in the NHL. But so we'll see about Żurawski in the NHL. But I mean, in terms of like to see him scoring in the KHL is really promising for me. Based on what I saw of him last year, I think that he has plenty of talent, plenty of skill, and a brain that, you know, thinks of things that, like, I don't know how many guys would go between the legs passing the puck out of the defensive end, right? Like, he's pinned along the boards and gets a foot off the boards and just flips it between his legs backwards out of the defensive zone, you know, kind of tape to tape to a guy at the center line. Like, I don't know who makes that play, but Alexander Żurawski sure tries it a couple of times. So, you know, take that for what you will, but I like betting on upside, and he certainly has it. Based on what you've seen on him, how is JP Hurlburt scoring all of his points in Kamloops? I didn't really think much of him when I saw him. I would be very curious to see what his production looks like by January. I just feel like he is a textbook example of a guy who's like a little bit more skilled than a lot of his competition, and can do that McKenna thing, like threading passes through traffic pretty well, but I don't believe it in the same way that it's repeatable as I do with McKenna. Like the game I did, Hurlburt scored a goal by just going to the net, and I think he baseball batted a puck out of midair, catching his own rebound and put it in, which is great. That's cool. And I think he had an assist from entering the offensive zone, stopping up just inside the blue line and throwing a puck far post to a guy that was on the rush with him on a 2-on-2. So, that's cool. That's fine. But like his overall involvement in the game seemed really underwhelming and low. Like the physical moments that he was called upon for, he was kind of not really visible or effective. I'm going to check him out a few more times before the end of the year, of course, right? Like it's not over. But I kind of went out, finished that game going like, what's he going to be, right? Like who does he remind me of in the guys that I've had ranked? And I just didn't have a good example, and that freaks me out a little bit at this point. But I've been wrong this early in the season many times, so we'll see how I feel in January. Have you seen Kindle and Brunick play in the NHL? And if so, what do you think? I've seen both. Kindle, I think Kindle's making it work with his hockey sense and like the way he maps the ice and sees things. He's very smart and very efficient, which is great. But again, like his skating ability is good, but not amazing. He's pretty slender. And I think the physicality of the NHL might be a little bit above his level right now, above his pay grade, but I feel like the puck movement and the puck management and the just overall game management ability of him is pretty good. Brunick I haven't paid as much attention to, but I mean obviously the skating is always apparent with him. Like that's the big thing that he leads with. It's the finer points of the game with him that I've always kind of had a problem with, making passes to clear targets and, getting good looks of the ice in chaotic situations, along the boards and all of that stuff and not just sort of throwing the puck away. Those little refinements I think are going to take time, and that's fine. His defensive stick is all right. There's a lot in his game that I don't mind, and the skating ability is really high end. I just don't, he's always struck me as like a fine, interesting skating first defenseman that I don't know what his role is going to be in the NHL, but to see him there now is intriguing. Again, I think it's also always important to remember that Pittsburgh is a team where I think they told every kid, and they meant it in camp, like if you earn a job, you will play. We have jobs available. Look at the roster of this team, right? These guys, a lot of these guys are waiver guys potentially, right? So make them waiver guys. And I think those guys, pushed things enough where the team went, yeah, let's see what they can do, So whatever they do with these two guys, nothing would surprise me, I don't think. Like, I think there's an argument for keeping both of them around on that team, but I also feel like there might be a bit of a stronger argument to send them both back. It would be nice to be able to send at least Brunick to the AHL, I feel like. But time will tell. I like Kindle for sure, though. Thoughts on reigning Cy Young winner Jonas Lagerberg and his under 20 leading 2 points per game pace. I do like this player. I mean, he's really tall and lanky, but really skilled and a really good shooter. And yeah, the Cy Young Award last year, I mean, that's pretty amazing. But I also feel like, judging by how he plays, I feel like that assist total could have been a little higher. I do want to see him in the SHL, though. I feel like that's kind of every time I've seen him at the under 20 level, he struck me as like, I've seen you push things more than this. I've seen you skate harder than this. I've seen you get around guys better than this. It feels like he's a guy who, once he hits the SHL, you really see what he's capable of, and things really sort of spread out and look really impressive. And I feel like he's just an example of maybe a bit of a a guy who's like, I know I'm too good for this level and I'm just waiting for my shot somewhere else, whether it's the men's team or a loan or something. But fun player to watch. Another guy I probably have to check out before the end of the month. So an interesting player. Is he better than Tarek Skubal? Probably. I mean, he had 27 wins last year, right? We're talking a kid who had 27 wins and 3 losses last year. And I know Tarek Skubal can throw a ball, but I don't know. Jonas Lagerberg-Hohen might edge him out for a Cy Young award on that one. I don't know. I don't think Tarek Skubal can win 27 games. All due respect to Tarek Skubal, I should say. No Nordmark in the top 32. Not right now. I have him just outside though. He's not too much further lower than this. I think. Let me take a look. Nordmark is just in the top. He's in the top 40. I think he's 38. I think that's what that says. 39. I think with Nordmark, it's I think he's a very, very, very good complementary offensive player. I feel sort of similarly to him as what I've seen out of like a Ryan Rubrek, but a kind of weird alternate version of him. He's obviously not 6'6", but just sort of a bit of a passive, less engaged defensive player who leans a little more offensively, and really sort of needs a bit of help from his line mates and sort of sticks high in the defensive zone, waiting for sort of those opportunities to jump offensively. And I don't think he has the sort of pace and pure skating ability from what I've seen to be a huge transition threat. But again, like he's a very smart offensive player. Like he times his passes. The thing I noticed immediately was he times things really, really well. Like his passes, his routes, his spacing, like it's all really clever. He makes himself a target and he finds targets really efficiently. And I think that's why he has more assists than games played so far this year. Like he's an impressive offensive player. Like the guy that the archetype that I always come back to a little bit is like he kind of reminds me of like a less skilled Gabe Perreault, where it's like Gabe Perreault has his role on a line. I don't think you're going to get an enormous defensive performance out of a Gabe Perreault, but once the puck is on his stick, he's capable of some really impressive stuff. And once that play starts moving offensively and into the offensive zone, he's a threatening player. And Nordmark, I feel like, is a bit similar to that. Maybe not as like high-end skill level, but like the smarts are there, just like Perreault. There's a lot of sort of echoes there. And so it's like I think there's more in the tank with Nordmark, and again, I would love to see him get a couple of games somewhere at a higher level, because maybe there's, again, like he's pushing the limits of under 20 hockey and he's kind of just maybe waiting for that opportunity. But at the end of the day, good player. It's just a matter of like projecting into the NHL. How does he deal with physical pressure and all of that stuff? Because those things are, a bit of a work in progress from what I've seen, but still a good player. Like I like him. He's in my top 40, and this is a pretty strong class. Like I could easily see him looking at the guys ahead of him, like, as high as 25, 26, maybe right now. It's just, it's a bit of a wash. It's early, but who's on your short list for Rookie of the Year so far? I mean, man, I thought Matthew Shea. I thought Ivan Demidov was gonna be the guy to run away with it, and he's been very good. Don't get me wrong. I think he's gonna have a really great season with Montreal this year. Oh, man. Matthew Schaefer has been extraordinarily good. I've had a couple of messages from people too where they've just been like, I don't think anybody expected him to be this comfortable in the NHL. Like he is most shifts you see out of him that I've seen with the Islanders, I go like he might be the best guy on the ice. Like the skating ability, the ability to get up and down the ice. Like, yeah, he might get pushed around a little bit, doing pursuit defense in his own end is a little bit of a question mark against some faster guys at that level. But like, what do you want from him? He's 18. He's barely 18 years old. Last night, he, from the guys I've seen, I don't know, outside of Demidov, like I don't know who else could hold a candle to what I've seen of Matthew Schaefer. Like I love Demidov as much as anybody probably, but I legitimately could not believe how good he looked, and I think that was his like second game. Like for a guy who hasn't played a competitive game since December 2024. Yeah, I mean, unbelievable player, unbelievable performances. Like, just, yeah, I don't know, so good. Outside of that, though, I don't know. I don't know who else. Like, who are the betting favorites? Like, Calder Trophy betting odds. Let's see here. Demidov. Oh, man. No, this has to be old. October 1st. Yeah, this has to have changed. Because if so, if not, I might need to put some money on Matthew Schaefer winning Rookie of the Year. Not that I condone gambling. I don't. Only bet what you're comfortable losing. Okay, so Schaefer's not the favorite, but he's a plus 480 right now. The other contenders, Buyam, Snuggerud, Seneca, Gricic. I don't know. I don't think any of those guys are a huge threat. Maybe Buyam, maybe Snuggerud. But I feel like Buyam has been pretty up and down in the games I've seen of him. Like, there are some moments where you go, holy crap, look at this guy go. But it's not the same, I don't think, as Schaefer. And, I mean, yeah. Demidov probably is a hair ahead for me in my mind, but I could very easily have Schaefer as the guy because he has been wonderful. The other thing to keep in mind, though, is that Montreal is in the forefront of hockey always, constantly. So every highlight you see of Ivan Demidov, you're going to see a billion times. And I refuse to believe that NHL writers who vote on this stuff are not somewhat biased by either their location and the teams they cover, or how much you see, exposure bias, I guess you could say, right? How many players do you see do what Matthew Schaefer does, but he's doing it on the island? And so it's like, is he going to get the same amount of attention and understanding as a guy like Ivan Demidov will? I think that's a factor, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. First smoking ganja, now sports betting. Look, I don't condone either of those things, eh? One makes you dumb, but you feel like you're smart, and the other just makes you dumb. So, I mean, but hey, if that's what you want, then that's what you want, right? If that's what you want, I don't judge. But not my jam. Not my jam. At least not all the time. I'll bet on the draft, though, and lose money there. That's when I'll commit to losing money. Although Pyotr Andrianov made me a decent amount of money last year by betting on 2 goalies in the first round. That was an interesting one. But anyway, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think so. Josh, your follow-up about, I think, Horkoff, like, I think that's kind of the argument. You had three first-round picks, and the first two were very obviously like Kyle Dubas, Wes Clark, style players. Just from, I've seen them draft in Toronto for years. Like, that's just how they do it. And I think that those two players are great. And so it must have been like some group in the room, a group of scouts or something, where, okay, like we can draft these two guys, but we need beef. We need that insulating presence as well. So let's get the trifecta, right? 2 skill first guys who are, fun to watch and, in my opinion, just really good, and a safer bet to eat some minutes who is big and could develop really well. And that's a good trio to come away with, and I understand that completely. I don't dislike what the Penguins did in the first round. It's just, if I were running things, I don't know, I wouldn't have gone with Horkoff, but whatever, it's fine. Okay. Yeah, Logan Mailloux player card last night was really, I think was he the first player 5 standard deviations away from average game score or something? I don't know, whatever. And yes, Frank Nazar has been very good this year. I agree. Penn State is getting bounced this year when they face a real team, one of the best offenses in the NHL or in the NCAA, but not one of those. Not one team. Not one player on that team can defend. I mean, yeah, like, I don't know. I think I would agree in the sense of, like, there are gaps in that lineup for Penn State. But I'm looking around the NCAA, and I don't know. Like, I think you can probably poke holes in a lot of teams in the NCAA. Like, I just feel like things have equalized quite a bit. I mean, Michigan State looks like a great team. So maybe they're a bit like if it's Penn State versus Michigan State, I'm probably going Michigan State. Uh, yeah, like Western Michigan has still got some good players. Like Will Whitelaw joined them, or was he there last year? Will Whitelaw is national championship chasing, so if you don't like that, then you don't like Will Whitelaw. Yeah, he's in Western Michigan for the first time this year. But yeah, like they've got a pretty decent looking team. I don't know if they'll repeat, but there's a good group there as well. I like Sam Huck. They added him. Bobby Cowan, I liked him last year with Madison. Was it the Capitals? They've got some good players there, and Zachariah Wisdom is an interesting one. Ty Henricks, or no, I'm thinking of his brother. Yeah, I mean they've got some good players, and I don't know. So yeah, I could see Penn State being a team that maybe may end up a little bit overbought, to use a market term. But I don't know. I wouldn't count them out completely though. I'll say that. And yes, they will have the best power play in the league because they have Gavin McKenna, and he is just a god. That's just how it works. What do you think is the Penn's main needs are in their prospect pool? Good question. I mean, they did just draft a lot. I think they had one of the best drafts in the league last year. Let me just pull up here. Oh, wait, no, let's not use that tab. I just need to pull up my list of the guys on their roster here, or on their pipeline. They are like looking at this group. Yeah, like looking at this group, they've got a little bit of a lot, and that's a good thing, right? They've got I think they've got some really good goaltending prospects. They've got, I look at maybe their, like their group of defensemen is, I'd say, decent. Like, I don't know. I don't think they're missing a tremendous amount. I might say, because they drafted a lot of skill this past year. They drafted they've drafted a lot of defensemen recently, but they might benefit from a couple more defensemen who have a little bit higher upside. I know Brunick's already in the NHL, and that's great, but like Peyton Kettles, Owen Pickering is starting to get on the older side of being a prospect, and so I've always had promise in Owen Pickering, but at some point something's got to give here, especially for a guy drafted where he was. Quinn Beauchene I like a lot. Like they've got a lot of guys that I like, but maybe like they lack that real blue chip defense prospect that can go out there and just eat a ton of minutes, which is not easy to find, to be clear. But I mean, that might be it, because I look at the group of forwards they've got, and they've got a little bit of a lot. There's some beef, there's some physicality in there, there's some big boys, there's a lot of skill, there's some smaller guys who can really go. There's a lot going on, I think, for Pittsburgh. So, I mean, they're kind of like Chicago in a way, where it's like they can kind of go any direction they want. They can go any direction they want, and I would understand it, because they kind of have a little bit of a lot. Levshinov was the 12th highest expected goals share among defensemen in the NHL, and also leads the league in expected goals against. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like Levshinov to me. I don't know. I'm not surprised. Like, again, like when you're analyzing a player, it's like, where do things go well and where do things not go well? And what is the trickle-down effect of that on the game? If you have a defenseman who's going to get down below the goal line in the offensive zone, I could see how they are a driver of expected offense, right? I could see how they are a driver of high-end offensive output and skill, or like goals going in. I can see how that would happen, but I can also see how that would be a liability defensively. I could also see how a guy who struggles on puck retrievals and isn't a super evasive skater at the NHL level or skilled defender at the NHL level, but like tries a lot in those areas and gets away with it like one thing over the years that I've kind of started to not physically track in my database, but to sort of, note is the number of times watching a player where I go, ugh! Like the guh for any Wall Street bets nerds like myself, for any guhs, that's what I keep in mind. The guh, if you're not aware, one of my favorite clips on the internet is a guy who somehow, I forget what the glitch was, but somehow took $2,000 in his Robinhood account and got involved in some margin trading where he ended up leveraged like 50x. So he was like, and he bet against Apple with like naked put options or something like that. Like he bet against Apple and they weren't covered with cash in his account. It was all like on margin, and Apple smashed their earnings. And I think he ended up down 50 grand on the day. Like that's a classic internet clip. If you haven't seen it, go search "guh" on YouTube and it'll pop up. But the guhs per 60 with watching an NHL player, that's where I kind of go, okay, like keep those in mind, because I feel like those are really areas you want to focus on. And if you see players who have a lot of those moments then jump straight into the NHL, I don't think those are going to go away. And Levchinov was one of those guys. Owen Power was another really great example. It's especially important when, and I care way more when I'm looking at a guy that people say is going to go top 10. If that's the case, then I kind of go, okay. Like if that's the case, then I'm going to make sure that when I go, but they get away with it. It's like, how often is that going to happen in the NHL? And yeah, so I have seen a lot of Levchinov over the years, and so far it doesn't surprise me. Like he was a guy that I thought, send him back to college. You send him back to college for a year, maybe even two, get him to be one of the more physically dominant defensemen in the NCAA, and then maybe the NHL from there, and you just skip the AHL at that point. But I don't know. I did not expect NHL last year, and this year I don't know. From what I've seen of Chicago, he has not looked awesome, which doesn't give me pleasure, I should say. It does not, because I don't like seeing struggles, but yeah. Do you think Finnish Liga play has gotten better compared to last year with what's looking like an influx of Finnish guys this year? I mean, I don't think so. Like, I think that's just a matter of, I think what's more likely is the Finnish junior team will be better for the next couple of years, right? Like, like last year's Finnish national team at the under 20, especially under 18 level, it was not very good. Like, they were not very good. And they didn't have a whole lot of guys who played that Finland style super well. This year, though, they have those in spades. They have a number of guys that are just through and through classic Finnish style hockey, and it could work. In Liga in general, like the fact that there are, from the top of my head, 4 draft eligibles playing in Liga that are getting a lot of attention. You got Suvanto, Smits, Piiparainen, and I don't think Svensk is in the or is in Liga yet, but let me look here. I feel like there's one more. Maybe not. But the point is, all these guys I think are all quite good, but I don't think the influx of those guys drag Liga up. But I think it just is an indicator that the future of the Finnish world, for at least the time being, is more positive than it was last year. And I think it's also great because they fit that archetype. They fit what Finland tends to like in a player. So yeah, I mean, I think I don't know, but I mean, the quality of Liga still has its ups and downs. Like there are strengths and there are weaknesses that make it very different from the NHL. But you see guys like Anton Lundell come out of that league, and I think that it's a great league for a guy like Anton Lundell to develop and grow in, because it just naturally, for his playing style, projects to the NHL. But other guys, I don't know if I would say the same thing. Because the NHL tends to play like the Finnish national team a lot of the time, but not all the time. What do you think of Alexander Karmanov? I haven't seen much of him this year, honestly, so I can't give you a huge amount of whatever. But I don't know. I was talking to a guy about him in the summer, I think, because this person is also much more familiar with him, having seen him in the States a couple more times. And he was just saying, like, I almost feel kind of bad that he's like in the position that he's in, where he's kind of almost like a circus animal. It's because this person is a scout, right? Like, and his job is to watch players and analyze them. And he goes, like, I don't think he's, he might be a college defenseman that can hang at the NCAA level, but he's like, I think it's way too early and almost impossible to tell because of where he is right now if he's going to be a good NHL player. It's like, I just don't know. And he's like, and I agree. Like, I think he just has a really long way to go. And again, like, I talked about this on Tuesday, but you have to also keep in mind, like, the disadvantages of being a guy that tall. Yeah, he's like an octopus out there, right? But he's got a lot of empty space. Like, he might take up a lot of space this way, but in terms of, like, on the ice where his feet and his stick blade are, that's a lot of real estate for a guy like that, and getting through him, if you can figure out a way, make him use his feet a lot more, and, like, do the harder things that there is to do for a defenseman, like tracking play wide, pivoting on chip and chases and not losing too much speed. Like, I don't know. I'm curious what he looks like in the GOJHL, but I'm not holding my breath. And, it's almost unfortunate because he just is become this, like, meme. And, like, what if an NHL team just, like, goes ahead and drafts him 30th? Like, he's going to be in the spotlight forever. And if it doesn't work, unfortunately, like, it'll be like, oh, what could have been thing with him. Whereas for me, it's more about, like, he's probably a long-term development case. Like, he is a curiosity that has very little track record of being super valuable. The quantum computing stocks of the hockey world, so to speak. But I mean, like, it's all, like, maybe, it would have been interesting to see him crack the Brantford Bulldogs this year. It would have been interesting to see him play at that level, but he didn't make the team, right? Like, he's in their, I guess, minor league system, you would call it. He's in the Goj in Brantford. So we'll see. I'll check him out, but I haven't seen him that much this year, much at all. I watched a bit of him in the summer, but yeah. Buffalo last night, they beat, was it Ottawa 8-4, 8-5? Yeah. The Sens, the vibes with the Sens fans don't seem to be super positive at the moment. They're a little bit disappointed with their team and their coach. And I mean, I hope it turns. I look at the Ottawa Senators and their roster, and I go, yeah, this looks like a playoff team. I mean, again, like, I've seen people talking about firing Travis Green. Like, that's, like, you don't, in the NHL, my rule of thumb is you have absolutely no frickin' clue what you've got until you're 20 games into the season. Like, right now, a couple bounces don't go your way, or, a couple of your key guys ate too much for lunch and they have bad games or whatever. I mean, and you look awful, and you're still getting into game shape, all that stuff. The game is still not where it's going to be. But you can definitely make life harder for yourself in the first 20 games of the year, but you definitely don't know what you have as a team for a little while. So yeah, like, Sens fans, it's, like, hard to be patient, but I don't know. There's always a turnaround, especially when they've only played 4 games. You got 78 left. So let's stay grounded here. The world in 2025, it's not known for people staying calm and grounded, but it's worth a shot. It's worth a try, because it's probably better than freaking out and wanting the coach fired after a handful of games. Just for your own mental health's sake, on that point, like, just for your own sake, like, it's just way better to just try to find a way to not be, like find a avenue, something that makes you happy, and maybe hoping that the team gets better is maybe the answer. Just hoping that the team gets better because you got lots of time. I don't know. Or they're never going to lose, or they're never going to win again. Or that, that could possibly happen too, I guess. They could just never win again, and Michael Landauer just sells the team, folds the team. I don't know, but probably not. Frondell scored today, 7 and 11. Yeah, makes sense. You put a guy like that with the right group of guys, put him on the wing, you can get a guy like that to score goals. Yep, makes sense. I see it. San Jose claimed Vincent Iorio off the waivers. Do you have any thoughts on him? I don't think I've ever seen him play. I mean, I'm a little surprised he's like a commodity in the NHL. I remember watching him in junior going like, similar vibes to a lot of other defensemen where they're just kind of there and like an okay physical presence and like decently good at reading the ice and just keeping things really, really simple. I mean, I think Washington made the deal to make room for Dylan McIlwraith in the lineup, which is, Dylan McIlwraith has very quickly become the Ben Harper, Jared Cowan archetype of this league where you're just like, I see why you're playing, but it's not long term here. So for Washington to waive a younger player is a little bit of a questionable decision, but I don't think Washington is losing like a potential high-end upside guy. I mean, San Jose probably has room to give him a shot and see what he can do, whereas Washington might not have the same opportunity. So maybe it's a good thing for him. But I've never watched Iorio. I haven't seen him in the last little while, but whenever I've seen him, I've never really thought like this guy is definitely an NHL player that I want to go out and get and play for 20 minutes. I guess he could fill a lineup spot and be capable. I don't really know, but based on what I've seen of him over the years and like how he plays, sure, I guess. But yeah, I would be, whatever. You just kind of roll with it, I guess. I am quite thirsty, so I'm going to have a sip of my cranberry ginger ale. I am not sponsored by Canada Dry, but if they're listening, I would really like, really like to partner up here. This is good stuff, and it's a proud Canadian company headquartered in Mississauga, Ontario. So, we Canadians, we got to look out for each other these days. It's how it works. That's where we're at. I was gonna bet on. Was that Andrianov betting him being the first goalie? Yeah, I mean, I didn't bet on that. I bet on 2 goalies in the first round. I did not think Andrianov was going 20th overall, but boy, what a fun bet that is. Belchetz versus Rubrek. I have Belchetz quite a bit higher. As you can see, I have Rubrek outside the first round right now. I have not really enjoyed watching him play over the last 2 seasons, to be honest. I thought at the under-18s he looked pretty decent. You see a little bit more of the skating ability there, but I just don't know what boxes he checks for me as like an overall player that's like valued top 15, like where he is right now. I just haven't really seen it with him very much. And like especially when it comes to like growth, like what is different about his game this year than last year, and I don't know the answer to that. Belchetz, I can definitely see improvements and definitely see a level of calmness and comfort in his game that he didn't really have last year. Like he's a guy who I still feel like is limited. Like if you're drafting Ethan Belchetz because you think he's Eric Lindros, then I think you're barking up the wrong tree. But if you think he's the next and I think if you think he's the next Tom Wilson, I think you're also barking up the wrong tree. But if you think he's the next, I don't know, I don't know, but he definitely is not that, but I don't mean that in a bad way. I think he's got a very specific role that he could really thrive in. Let me look. NHL. Because you don't want him to be the focal point of a line, but you definitely can see the role that he's going to play. Puck protection, finishing ability, good hands for a big guy, and relatively good reads of the ice, like from what I've seen. Like that's all. I was quite impressed with him, the game I did of him, especially compared to what I remember last year. Like I watched him at the under-17s and did not think he was very good there, and watched him with Windsor a bunch and thought he really needed time and patience and everything. But he seems to be lighter on his feet this year. I think he's lost weight over the summer. I think I read that somewhere. And let's just see here. Greater than 6'3" in the NHL, who score a lot. I mean, like, I imagine people might look at him and see a guy like a Mark Stone, but I don't think he's on that level. Alexei Protas, maybe he's more up that alley. Kirill Marchenko, maybe, if he continues to improve his skating ability. Maybe more of a Voronkov, but I don't know. I think he's could be better than Voronkov. Yeah, like some of those guys, like the more finesse-oriented, non-line driving, auxiliary offensive guys that are huge. I think he could be one of those. Any viewings of JP Hurlburt? We talked about him earlier in the show. I've seen him a couple of times. I haven't really been blown away. I will keep a keen eye on how his season goes, but I just feel like he's a guy that might be one of the better, like he could be a really good WHL scorer. I mean, he already is, but like long term, and probably a good college player, but I don't know about him in the NHL based on how he plays. I don't know. At least not right now. I don't have the confidence. When will people start to give Sergei Murashov attention? Are they not? I feel like people are talking a lot over the last year about Sergei Murashov, but I don't know. Maybe it's the bias the world has for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and no other team apparently matters to the media, according to people. But I don't know. I Sergei Murashov, like, I think he's been. You never want to get too excited about a goaltender, so I feel like he's been properly evaluated for having an extremely promising AHL career to this point, and we'll see. Time will tell. Preston with Bedard would be freaking cool. It would. I don't know if I would do it. I feel like it's two versions of a very similar player. I think Preston maybe brings a little bit more defensive off-puck stuff this year from what I've seen, but I don't know about NHL level. Like, I feel like a Mathis Preston and an Anton Frondel would be pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. I would be interested in that combination. Yeah, I mean, or a Vanaker, Merrick Vanaker, Oliver Moore, sure. Blackhawks had a lot. They got a lot to play around with over the next few years for sure. Do you have another onion story you haven't told us yet? Oh God. I don't remember. I'm trying to think of like summer camp stories, because those definitely they exist. Oh, I got a good one. It's also from summer camp. And when I was really young there, like I started going there when I was 10, and I think I might have been 11. When I was 11, and I used to go for a month. And we obviously, like the onion story, if you're not familiar, I my camp counselor, I think I was 14 or something at the time. My camp counselor, I said I love onions, and I bet my camp counselor that if I ate an entire white onion, that he would owe me whenever the candy store the candy store was open at the camp. Whenever it was open, I would be able to get one thing of whatever I wanted from him, and he agreed. And then he never paid anything. He didn't back up his side because he didn't think I would actually do it. And it turns out the candy comes out of the paycheck for the counselors. So I guess he just wanted more money and thought I would not care about it, but I haven't forgotten. But anyway, a couple years prior, we obviously, being a summer camp where parents will send their children for a month in the middle of the nowhere in Ontario, you needed like a medical facility. So we had like a small cabin that was a doctor's cabin. The doctor lived there, and we had a doctor and an assistant, and it was a safe place to be. Don't worry. But what they did, one thing that was very interesting for the 10, 11, and 12-year-olds at that summer camp is for that time period, like early 2000s, we started a bartering system, like a small economy system of favors and various like bribes, I guess you could say, with halls, like the mints, not the mint, they're like the cough drops, because it kind of tastes good, I guess. And so they became like a currency almost. And it was very like anytime anyone had an opportunity to go into the nearest town, they'd load up on halls, bring them back, and it was like jail. They'd smuggle it in, and then it would become a currency. And so then one time I noticed that I went to the doctor's office because I sliced my thumb open. We had a lapidary hut. And if you don't know what lapidary is, it's like shaping and polishing rocks and, Shawshank Redemption style, making jewelry and all that stuff. So I was grinding a rock on a grinder, which is like a belt-driven electrical machine. And the rock slipped out of my hands, and my thumbs went into the grinder, not like into the gears, but like onto the grinder. And it just ripped my thumb. Like I had a scar on my thumb for years from that happening, and it was gross. It was not fun. And so I went to the doctor, and it didn't need stitches, but it definitely needed a big bandage job. And yeah, it was a black market of cough drops. And I noticed when I was at the doctor's office getting fixed up for this mishap that they had boxes of halls, like the Magic the Gathering boxes of booster packs. It was like that, but filled with halls, and they were unopened. And I went, interesting. So we planned a heist. This was 2002. There were no security cameras anywhere of anyone doing anything. And we knew at one point, the day of the week that the doctor would be out, because they also had a sign that says the doctor is here and the doctor's not here. And it had a thing that said, if you need a doctor, here's where they are. And so we spotted an opportunity because the doctor said they were at I can't remember what it was called. It was the farthest point away. We had this like long pathway that led out to like a point, I guess you could say, where we had a tiny little cabin and a bench that overlooked the lake. It was really nice. You could go out there and just hang out, whatever. It was really cool. And they were there. So I don't know what they were doing there, but that's where they went. I don't know what was happening. So I went back to my cabin that was pretty close. At that point, I was in a cabin. Later on, you stayed in tents, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. And I rallied the boys. It was a boys' camp. I rallied the boys. I said, look, if we want to strike, now's the time. But I know there's stuff in there that we could, like, let's just do it. So there were like 4 boxes of halls in there. We snagged one. We didn't clean them out because we thought, you know what, like they'll notice if all of them are gone. That would be very stupid. And so we stole them. We bank heisted out of the doctor's cabin and went back to our cabin and got high on our own supply for sure. Like definitely was irresponsible and stupid because you're 11. That's what you do with no parents around. Like, are you kidding me? And I mean, no one caught us. Never got caught. So I mean, if the people who run the camp, God bless you. You guys are great. But if you are watching this and you recognize me from 2002 and going, oh, that's who did it, I don't think anyone ever found out or ever knew. But I apologize. If need be, I will reimburse you for a crate of Hall's cough drops. But I think you guys, judging by how much it is to go to your summer camp, I think you guys are doing okay. But that's a good one. Summer camp is a place where there are just stories after stories after stories. Before we move on, I got one more too. This one for a couple of years at this camp, it was lore. So I used to horseback ride there. We had the opportunity to have a whole stable and a bunch of horses. And I liked it. I liked doing horseback riding. It was an extra like add-on to take horseback riding lessons while you were there, and I really really liked it. And so my parents were like, "Sure, you really like it. Let's do it. Let's do the horse riding." And so when I went to the stables, I used to love going to the stables. Partially because there were volunteer girls working and helping with the stables and the staff, and so you're 12, 13 years old and, you're at an all boys camp, like that partly factors into it. But I genuinely did really enjoy horse riding. Like I really did. And so at the end of the year, or not at the end of the year, but periodically through the month, we used to have to take the horses out of the stable and take them to a huge field, like a farm basically, where they could have like a day or two to not be in a stable, right? Obviously you can't have horses just running roughshod all over a summer camp full of boys. So there was like a designated place, and it was like out of the camp, up the road, like a kilometer or two. And so kids could volunteer to help and ride the horses back to the farm and where they would have their fun time. And so I being me, I was like, yeah, I'll do it once. Sure, I'll see how this goes. And like you had to be above a certain age limit because you were on a horse outside of the stable, and like there was all this other stuff. So I was like 13 maybe at this point. And I had a certain level of horseback riding achievement at the camp where I was allowed to do it. And so maybe by bad luck, they put me with a horse that was a bit of a struggle. This horse was a little temperamental and a little bit sort of tough to control. Not necessarily like crazy, but like not really listening to commands, kind of unpredictable. You just kind of had to be on your toes a little more around this horse. What was it? I can't remember its name. But anyway, so I'm riding the horse in this convoy. We're leaving the camp, and a horse is a horse, right? They're kind of just animals. And we were walking by or trotting, not trotting, but going by an apple tree at the side of the road. And my horse was like, "Oh, apples." And just slowly started veering off the road towards this apple tree that was about 3 feet in the bush, maybe 4 feet into the bush. And there were like apples hanging over the road. So there were branches hanging over the road. And I'm trying to guide the horse back on the road. I'm like, come on, like, and then getting a little more forceful and a little bit more and a little bit more. And then the horse just keeps going. It doesn't stop. And I start going like, I go like, I can't control the horse at the moment. I'm going into the woods here and I don't know what to do. And the people running the convoy were just like, just guide it back on the road. Just pull on the one side of the reins. You're fine, whatever. I was like, I don't think this horse is listening to me much. I think this horse knows it has a physical advantage over me. Next thing I know, there's an apple tree branch like under my arms and like pinning me back. And the horse just kept walking. So I'm falling more and more backwards. And I'm like, the last thing I want is to fall off a horse and have a horse just like out in the open in the woods. Not a good idea, right? Sorry, camp people, I lost a horse. So anyway, luckily the horse did stop, but I spent because then they finally did notice that I was in a bit of peril. Because also this tree was tall and I'm on the top of a horse. If I fall off, that's pretty far. And I'm holding on to this branch I'm basically flat this way. Like my legs are all the way out forwards and I'm holding on to prevent myself from, and I was stuck there for maybe 10 minutes while they tried to like get the horse to behave or whatever. And it was just eating apples off a tree and whatever. It became lore for 2 years after that. People were still at the camp being like, what the hell were you doing? Like somehow it was my fault, and that's fine. Kind of maybe was, but whatever. So summer camp, really good opportunity for people to have crazy life experiences for sure. Good 7 months over 7 years of my life. It was an interesting time. But anyway, let's get back to hockey here. Have you noticed a large quantity of play changes in the CHL with the NCAA rule changes? How do you compare the CHL to other leagues? Herbert, yeah, I mean, let's wait a bit on Herbert. It's very early. But I think in general, like the CHL kind of feels similar because a lot of really good players who might be 20 or overagers are now gone. And the guys that are coming up are often, still good players, but they're college bound. And there aren't that many of them. And I think the CHL over time is going to skew younger anyway, like more of an under 18 league. And then beyond under 18 is guys who maybe aren't prioritizing school, or they just want to stick around before they go to school or whatever. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know for a fact, to tell you the truth. I don't know for a fact which way to go on that, if it's better or worse. 3 import slots opens the door for it to get even better because a lot of import guys could be very good in the CHL. I mean, from what I've seen this season, like, it's hard to tell any differences, but it does feel a little bit peppier and a little bit zippier and a little bit quicker and more physical, but that might just also be confirmation bias. I don't know. Might be just what I want to see. Oh, I broke my fidget ring. Damn. 3D printers. Scam. Let's continue. Do you have an example that comes to mind where prospects got hyped by media or a national system way too early, where it hurt their development, and you wish everybody just waited? I mean, yeah, like, it's like, think of the reaction I got when I mentioned Gavin McKenna maybe isn't my number one, and maybe isn't the best option, and maybe is part of a bigger discussion, right? Like, it took 2 weeks for people to maybe start to go, okay, maybe there is something about this guy that's a bit of a question mark, right? It took 2 weeks, but before then, it was this unstoppable, nonstop wave of like positivity and optimism, and I go back and I think about like Alexis Lafreniere and how he played when he was 17, 18 years old, and Owen Power when he was 16, 17 years old. Like, people were really hyping these guys up. Maybe not in the US, but in Canada for sure. And it's like, it's always why I keep my evaluations and projections pretty conservative and pretty reserved, where it's like, I just, based on what I'm seeing and what is apparent, I am comfortable with the idea of this player being here. It might be better for business for me to be a hype machine, and just yap all day about, how incredible, oh my God, JP Hurlburt, 3 points a game. He's the greatest prospect we've seen since Pavel Brendel, maybe I could do that. But yeah, I mean, I think there is part of that. I think, it's really important, I think, for young athletes, regardless of your skill level and your ability, to be level-headed about your progression, right? Like, it's kind of why I'm attracted to the idea of being like an agent. But the industry is not necessarily, if anything, the industry of being an agent is who can hype up their player the most, not who is actually good for this player's development by being honest and realistic and supportive, right? Like, it seems like I'm not saying everyone is like that, right? I'm not doing that. It's just there is an incentive mechanism to misrepresent young players in your catalog, right? It's just it's a financial incentive. It's a career incentive. So I get it. But the point, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, it is really, you have to be careful, like, especially with the world of social media, right? No matter how many times people say it's bad to bully people in comments and it's bad to be mean and all this stuff, it's going to happen. Like, they have people en masse, billions of people aren't all of a sudden going to be like, you know what? I won't yell at a 17-year-old child about their performance in an athletic game that has no bearing on my life and does not matter whatsoever, but I'm going to try to make them feel bad. People are going to do that. Like, I don't know. I hope as few people do it as possible, but it's just a human mechanism where people don't feel so good about themselves, or they are just not all mentally there. They're just and they have direct access to put themselves in front of the faces digitally of anyone they want. they're gonna put themselves out there. It's just gonna happen. It's an incentive. It gives them attention. So at the end of the day, though, I hope that gets minimized, but it's why I'm always like very tepid about this stuff, because it's like I just go off what I see, I go off what I hear, I go off of what, the data is saying, and I keep it all as positive as I can. I really, really, really want to stress that when I'm like talking about guys like Gavin McKenna, it's not that I don't think they're a good hockey player. It's not that I'm like, I hope he fails, right? That's not, it's all out of a position of like being positive. Ken Johnson was a really good example of that a few years ago, where I really loved what he's capable of. The skill level is remarkable with him. But when you watched him, it was like the potential is so high, but he needed a supportive environment to like boost him up to refine things and make it more projectable, right? I don't think there's anything wrong pointing that out, but it gets conflated with being like, look at how much this guy is bullying children or whatever. So it's like, it's like, okay, but I'm being, it's about being honest and like supportive and like trusting their future, so to speak, right? And that's when I get excited. It's when I can identify a player where I get excited about their future, right? And see why, and see a good path forward. Oh, AJ's here. Crap. All right, party's over. But in general, like a lot of the guys that go first overall, like my whole thing over the last few years has been the gap between guys at first overall and the next few picks is smaller than you think. Like it's not that big. And the gap between 5 and 20 and 30 is even smaller, I would argue, it's just the nature of probabilities and how this all works, right? Like there might be one hyper elite athlete that's better than all the rest for sure, but the like 1 in a million, right, is pretty rare. I don't know, but the point is it happens. It's unfortunately a thing that happens. And it's also why over the years I try to ignore all of it. I try to just go, I'm just going to look for myself. I'm going to see for myself. I'm going to form my own opinion, because also like companies have a vested interest in driving up hype about these guys. It gets them engaged for their written work all season long. It gets people excited about the draft. It gets fans excited about the draft. It gets fans engaged in the performance of their team. It gets fans engaged at the draft time. It gets their fans excited and engaged after they draft the players and all of this stuff. I get it. Like that drives engagement, and engagement drives money. I get it. But that's not my job. You know what I mean? Like that's not, it's the nature of the business, so to speak. For game scorecards, is there a site that explains how they measure the data? I think Hockey Graphs is where the explanation of it is. I remember Dom Lucian. I went to a conference, a secret conference, about 10 years ago, maybe 9 years ago, and Dom Lucian was there, and he presented game score and put the equation up on the board, and I didn't write it down because I was young and foolish. But and also I didn't really like it was interesting. Don't get me wrong, it's interesting. I just didn't feel the need to like be like I'm gonna take this home and use it. But it is largely. I felt watching the explanation. I felt like it's a pretty decent encapsulation of like a single game sample of things. Like it weighs shot differentials, expected goals, goals for, goals against, points, all that stuff. I think it might weigh actual goals quite a lot, but I understand why, because it's like the outcome of the game is not decided by shot differentials and expected goals. It's the goals. The goals are what decides the game, so they're very, very important, which I understand. In single game samples, it's very important. So I understand that logic. I get it. But it's out there somewhere. I think Hockey Graphs, if that site is still alive, I think Hockey Graphs has it. If not, Dom might have written an article on it. Worst case, I feel like you could at him, at him and see if he responds or something. And because any analyst worth their weight is going to guide you to the resources that help them get to the metrics that they develop, right? Especially if they're like leaning into it and making it a forefront of their work. Finland almost won the World Junior Gold last winter, but they almost lost to Dvorsky in the quarters. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, they never really did push the game, but that's how they play, right? Finland wants to slow the game down. Finland wants to crush you. Finland wants to be annoying, and they want to grind the puck to the net. That's kind of how the formula is. And the issue is they didn't really have that in like actual players, especially at the under 18s last year, to really make waves. The World Juniors, they had guys that could do it for sure. They existed. I don't think they were a bad team at the World Juniors really at all. I saw them play and I thought they were fine. But yeah, I feel like for a couple of years there, you know, Finland might be not necessarily that, like they might be more along the Czechoslovakia level of international quality, but I feel like this year and the next couple, like this year, this class is going to move things in the right direction for them. But you could also say the same thing about Slovakia. They've got some really good players coming up. Czechs, I don't know this year so much, really. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, Finland is probably going to be on the up. I'm buying Finland calls for the World Juniors. Maybe not the World Juniors, but for the under 18s this year for sure. Eklund is looking good for Djurgården. I agree. Good player. As a Flames fan, I would do devious things for Ty Lawrence. I hope GMs are silly and gets to Calgary. Dude, Calgary, I feel like, would be all over him, and rightfully so. I mean, I would love to see a guy like Mathis Preston in Calgary, but a guy like Ty Lawrence, I think, offsets the type of players that they've drafted already really, really, really well. Guys like Theo Stokselius, Colin Potter, Cole Reshny, Zane Parekh, all those skill guys that they drafted in 2024. I think he would line up really well with those types of players because he just has so much two-way energy and brings so much in so many areas of the game that I think it would glue a lot of that team together in the future. And time will tell. You know, I mean, Calgary obviously not off to the best start, but you know, you never know. The thing is too, like, you know, I think Ty Lawrence is a bit of a step ahead of a lot of the guys in this draft. We'll see when he starts playing how that changes, if at all. But, I mean, you know, if you don't get Ty Lawrence this year, there are still some really good players available. Like Jack Hextall in a Calgary Flames jersey would be so sick. Maybe a Casey Mutrin. I really like him. I think there's a lot of upside in his game. Heck, Albert Smits in Calgary. If you just want to go Zane Parekh on pair 1 and Albert Smits on pair 2 in 5 years, that would be hilarious. You know, there are some good players available this year. So if you're a lottery team at all, I think you're going to get a decent player. Chase Reed could be a good ad for them, I think. Hell, Xavier Villeneuve might be a guy that goes under the radar. And again, instead, like a Villeneuve second pair, Parekh first pair, I think you'd have a real good time watching that team play. Colin Fitzgerald, thoughts compared to last season? I just haven't seen it with Fitzgerald. I feel similarly to him as I did about Beckham Edwards, but more about but in the sense of like, I don't think he's as smart. Like, I think he's more of just that physical style of guy. He's more willing to get greasy along the boards, but you know, there's a level of finesse in the game that I look for, and I just haven't seen it in him, especially for centers. But I haven't tracked him yet. I will at some point. He's not super high on my priority list, but I could be wrong on that. I like him. I like the physicality in his game, I should say, but I haven't seen enough of him both last year and this year at the Hlinka and this year with Peterborough, where I see a first round pick, you know, maybe a second round pick, something like that. But I think he's a bit of a ways away as he is. How Has Nazer proven that every potential Canadian superstar like Connor Bedard needs an emotional support American? Yeah, I guess. Americans do like to have more fun than Canadians a lot of the time, it seems. Sometimes too much fun. But, Canadians know how to have a good time. But, culturally, en masse, Canadians are a little more reserved than Americans. A little more, homey, let's say. But obviously, I'm not gonna paint with a broad brush strokes for the whole nation between yourselves and us. But, emotional support, it could be the other way around. Frank Nazer's only this good because he has an emotional support Canadian. If anything, I would think there's more likely to be a truth in that, if I say so myself. So, which prospect would you like to sit down with for 15 minutes and say, slow down, you're doing too much? Villeneuve. I think Xavier Villeneuve, maybe. Yeah, Villeneuve. I mean, the easy answer might be McKenna, but I don't think I want to cage that guy. I think I just want to push him to give more in more areas, more times. That's what I mean. I think Villeneuve is a legitimate one there, where it's like there's so much potential, but like, man, you got to cool it. But when Gavin McKenna is really dialed in, like, you don't want to tell him to cool it. I don't think so. So I would say Villeneuve is the easy answer there, probably. 6'4" right-hand shot D has to be a sleeper agent for some higher-ups. Yeah, well, they don't grow on trees, right? Koblar got bumped up to second-line center and scored a goal and had a primary assist. Really? Interesting. Good for him. And it makes me look smart. I had him top 50. Now, I had him at 50, but I had him top 50. And people were confused. So, take my victory laps in October, How about that? That's what you get. Best birthday of the year. That's what we bring. The July 21st crew. You got Koblar, you got me, and you got Mathis Preston. We got it. We do the thing. So, look out. Look out. Yes, it was 2002 because they were keeping cough drops on hands to give to patients. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't much else that you could do for like a 12-year-old that had the sniffles, I think they also had like Buckley's. If you don't know what do they have Buckley's cough medicine in the United States? I think it's a Canadian company. Please tell me if you have it in the States, because, I mean, not only is that stuff absolutely revolting, but, I mean, I find that it actually kind of helps. Maybe that's my internet decroded advertising ruined mind confirmation biasing, because their motto is, or their slogan is, tastes awful and it works. But I mean, look, if you Americans haven't had the chance to try Buckley's cough syrup, okay, yeah, you never heard of it on the West Coast? Okay. I mean, if you ever find yourself in BC, Mr. West Coast man, or any other Americans find yourself in Canada, even if you're not sick, grab yourself a bottle of Buckley's and see how you like it, because that should be a Canadian moment for any tourist coming to Canada, if it is not an American product, trying Buckley's cough syrup, because we sell that stuff in droves to each other, and you give that to children. Maybe that's why we're so rugged and awesome, because we grew up. I remember one time I was sick. My mom gave me cod liver oil, like a glass of it. Now, that might have been like insane behavior from my mother, and she refuses to believe that she ever did that, but you do not forget drinking a glass of cod liver oil. And it made me a strong boy. So, I'm not holding it against her, but I'm just saying, sometimes Canadians, we're built different. We just are built different. You're a Canadian who've never heard of Buckley's? Oh my God. Gee whiz. True. Tequila when you got a cold is probably also a pretty decent bet. See, the problem is, though, at a summer camp filled with boys who were 13 years old, probably not going to be handing out tequila shots anytime soon at that environment. That would have been a mess. And you want to talk about a heist. Me at 15, not that I condone underage drinking, but you will bet your bottom dollar that if tequila were on hand at the doctor's office, as if it were 1869, then you bet your bottom dollar kids would be in there stealing it every single day. So, yeah. Oh, never had it. Okay. Well, better go try it because it is something. When I had COVID, I used it, and it made me feel like I wasn't hungover, which, I mean, I don't know what you guys all had, if you ever got COVID, what your experience with it was, but for me, it felt like I was hungover for a week straight. I watched, when I did have COVID, I also couldn't keep my eyes open really, I just needed to sleep all day. And when I was awake, I sat through 3 individual sittings to finish it of that Wes Anderson movie, Asteroid City. And I wanted my time back. I love a good Wes Anderson movie, but that one was so mediocre. It was when you're sick in bed and you watch a movie that you just aren't really feeling, but you hope for it and you wait until the end hoping, and you're disappointed. That I went, you know what? I definitely desperately need, definitely didn't need to make myself feel that way when I already had COVID on top of it all, and I'm drinking Buckley's. So, I hold that against Wes Anderson a little bit. Not that he has any direct fault in that scenario. But yeah, that movie was questionable. Until the aliens, spoiler alert, whoops. But I mean, if you haven't seen that movie and it's been multiple years, then I'm sorry. But until that scene where they're all in the crater, then that was where it got kind of wild. It was a fine time. But we were talking about Tinus Luke Koblar. Yeah, I mean, good player. Loves his parents. Good player. Sharks claim Iorio tell you how to feel. Just live your life. I don't really know if he's an actual NHL player, but just live your life. They waived him to play Dylan McIlwraith, right? So, maybe he's a guy, but I don't know. He's a guy. Sorry if this was already asked, but what's the skinny on Kasper Justavar Karlsson? Yeah, we talked about him a little bit, but he is just a little wrecking ball. Just a wrecking ball, lightning bolt energy that I really, really like. I think he brings some interesting stuff to the game. I think he's a really long way away and a huge, huge swing. So I probably will have him a lot lower by the end of the year, but I really liked watching him. He has that rambunctious jerk energy that I really like. Like a little guy running around, hitting guys, grinding, cracking skulls and doing whatever is necessary to get the puck away from the other team. And, he needs to kind of slow it down a little bit on the puck and maybe control the puck a little bit better at the SHL level. But it just feels like he's a guy whose butt is on fire when he's on the ice at that level all the time. And it makes me feel like that's kind of how he's thinking he has to play in order to stick with the lineup. Because at the junior level last year, I saw him as much more of a finesse player. But we'll see. I like him, though. Could you rank Misa, Frondel, Dane Noyer, and Martone based on their performance after the draft? Well, I haven't seen Dane Noyer. Nobody has, so I can't do that. I don't think he has, right? I don't think he's played. He's got broken wrists. Martone, I haven't seen Martone yet. Misa Frondel, probably... Well, I don't know. I mean, Misa played 1 game in the NHL, and Frondel has had 12 in SHL, so it's a little too early to tell. I don't know. Misa did look a little bit out of sorts, a little bit too uncomfortable in the NHL for my tastes. But I feel like Frondel, the role that Misa has to play as an NHL player, in my view, is a much more difficult role than what I would see Frondel doing. And I think if you put Frondel in the NHL today, he probably looks a little more comfortable in the in the NHL than Misa does. But I think over time, Misa just gets better and better and better and better and better, where I think there's a peak to Frondel's game and his profile that Misa eventually surpasses, if that makes sense. For Kindle and Coots, I think Kindle ranks after Frondell. I mean, probably third out of those guys. Like, I don't think he's been as good as Frondell has been in the SHL, but it's really hard to compare SHL to NHL. And I actually, I was less concerned with Kindle than Misa actually watching that. But again, it's only one game, so it's really hard. And Coots, I just think it was too much for Coots. I think it was just a pat on the back, couple of games, and congratulations on an amazing camp, and go have fun for the year. I love Braden Coots, though. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think he's a really, really good player, and to see him make the team is really cool. And so, yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's okay. I was thinking a maybe, but a big maybe for Verhoff to first overall. I mean, it's possible. I could see, if I put on my universe prediction hat, there are a couple of universes where he goes first overall. I can't say it's impossible, but we'll see. I have him slated for a game next week, so I'll have a much closer look at him then. But there are definitely things in his game that are really impressive, and definitely things that I think you can build on and develop over the years that really could unlock a lot. I think I've said this a few times, like, I think he could be a guy that shows decently well at the beginning of the year, but by the end of the year, you're like, this guy is really freaking good. Like, I don't think he's a Matthew Schaefer type, just all over the ice, constantly creating and doing everything type defenseman, but just a rock solid all around defenseman with some offensive tools. Like, I could very easily see that by the end of the year. Are we on the Faroe Islands national football team bandwagon? I don't know why you're mentioning that, but absolutely. Like, I went to the Faroe Islands a couple of years ago. I can't say enough good things about that place. I swear to God. I think you can get there direct from New York now. But please, for the love of God, treat that place with respect, because it is incredible. Like, it is one of the few, I think it's one of the few places in the world that is relatively accessible for people in North America, that is worth going to, and has not been completely overridden and destroyed with gentrification, tourist coddling. Like, if you go there, you can still have a really sort of raw life experience. And I love that about that place. Like, there's nobody lives there. You go for a hike. Like, we went for a hike up near where our guest house was, up one of the, I guess you call it a mountain, but it was just like, it was like a ramp that just ended with a sheer cliff straight into the ocean, like hundreds of feet tall. And so the hike was basically walking up the ridge or the crest of it all the way around, basically bordering the lake, or bordering the ocean. There were no barriers. There were signs, there weren't that many people there, but you go there and it's pretty raw. It's pretty unfiltered. And it's like, you are at your own peril here. That is on you. And I love that about that place. Obviously, past a certain point, you kind of have to, be a little more coddly. But if you want to have a really cool experience, and the other thing too is, like, eating food there, stuff is expensive. Food and drinks and stuff are expensive. But if you don't consider it a place to go to eat food, and that, like, you don't want to go for a culinary experience, then I think you'll be fine. Like, we lived off of, like, cheese, crackers, bread. We ordered a pizza that was like a large pizza that lasted us 2 days. Just stuff that's like, we don't care. It's just cheap, affordable-ish, as affordable as it's going to get here. And the pizza was actually pretty good. A pizza from the Faroe Islands, actually pretty good. It was the only pizza place in town, but it was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, and we did want to go to a football match because there was one going on when I was there, and we couldn't make it work for some reason. I forget. But I mean, look, it's a beautiful place to go. It's not that far away. If you're in North America on the east side, and
It's gorgeous, and you can probably do a lap on all the major roads around the entire island in a day. Like, it is small. Like, from where we were, which was out by the airport, which is the southwest corner of the island chain, we went all the way to the northernmost point that major roads will take you, and it was a 2.5 hour drive. You know, not every island is connected, but also it has the only underwater roundabout, which in and of itself is a tourist attraction because it costs like $20 to use. But there were two of us, $10 a person to go on the only underwater roundabout in the world. You can't. It's great. It's a great experience. It's really cool. So yeah, their national football team, absolutely. And I think while I was there, they had a club team that was in the Champions League and like going way further than they should have. They beat a team in Sweden, and then they beat they beat a team from Turkey, I think, and like all these more powerful football countries. A team from some town in the Faroe Islands beat them. Which is always fun to follow. But yes, I highly recommend going there, and I highly recommend supporting their football club because it's a great place. The people are a little strange, but you would be too if you lived on an island chain in the middle of the ocean that, you know, there wasn't really much going on, you know, unless you're a salmon factory fisher or you know, I don't know what they do for work there. Sell things in their shops? I don't know. It's mostly fishing. That's mostly what it is. This time last year, Prodman had Nazar unranked on his under 23 list. Yeah, well, I don't know. A headache where your brain feels like it's sloshing around willy-nilly every time you move your head. Yeah. That is kind of what it was. Yeah, the COVID for me, like a hangover. A hangover now, I honestly don't really drink all that much. Like, I feel like there are two linear progressions in the XY chart of your life, right? Where desirability is on the Y-axis and time is on the X-axis. And like as you go along, we'll do it backwards for me, but as you go along, the desire for being wasted off of your gourd goes like this. And the desire for being hungover goes like this, and like somewhere on the x-axis there's a intersecting point, and for me that was like 30, where like the drinking and the hangover started to be like, this isn't really worth it, you know. It's like you become more aware of how precious your life is, and so you then start to go, when you lose a day, you go, I don't like that. If you're so hungover, you like can't do much until dinner time the next day. It's like, I don't like that. That just setting aside the physical symptoms, it's just not a good thing. And so now a few years later, it's like that has definitely crossed, and it's just not really worth it for me. Like and also like there's other circumstances that make it so that I definitely shouldn't be drinking all that much anyway. But if I do, like, we just had Thanksgiving here in Canada. I had 2 beers and I thought I was going to pass out at the table. so that's where I am. That's where I'm at. So I don't know if your XY intercept is different than mine. I don't know if your linear intersection in the XY coordinate plane is different than mine. It's okay if it is. It's up to, it's all up to you. I don't judge. But for me, once you get into your 30s, and being sleep deprived, like being sleep deprived actually has painful manifestations now for me in my 30s. Like when I don't sleep enough, I have like a hangover headache. And so now I'm like, okay, it is just not worth it to sleep for 5 hours. It's just not worth it to be up until 3 a.m. anymore watching hockey prospects or researching quantum computing stocks or something. It's not a good thing for me to be up that late doing that, because the next day I'm a zombie and it's disgusting and I can't focus and it's a mess. So, you get to that point eventually. My personal Calgary list looks like Lauren, Preston, Stenberg, Bjork. Yeah, I mean, all of those guys make sense. Gustafsson, yeah, there's good players out there this year, and Calgary will have a shot, I would imagine, at some of them. I mean, they got Cullen Potter at 32 or whatever last year, 31. So, like, anything is possible, you know? Anything is possible. Okay. What about Kindle and Coots on? Oh, we did that. Did you watch Stepan Stexial yet? No, I did not, but I will. I will because yeah. Under 17 Canada rosters, I actually have not. Let's see. The under 17 development camp, is that what we're talking about here? Yes, it is. Okay. I mean, I can't say I'm too familiar with these guys because they're all 09s, I believe, right? Like the guys from Ontario, maybe. I've liked Brock Chitteroni. I've seen Ottawa a few times, and he's looked pretty good. Yeah, I don't know a lot of these guys, at least not in the same. Mirko Dufour is fun. He's an Everett kid. He's a lot of fun. Ben Veach for Newfoundland. James Scantlebury also is one to watch for sure. I've really liked him. Cam Warren, a really fun player to watch, really exciting, talented kid. And Fernando Pisani's son. Wow, I am ancient. But yeah, I don't know too much about these guys, honestly. Most of the Ontario guys I'm most familiar with. I mean, everybody knows Maddox Schultz at this point. He's been quite good with Regina. Yeah. Interesting group. Plural groups. Yeah. Quinn Norman is interesting. I saw him in Peterborough, in Charlottetown at the tournament I went to, and he was impressive there too. Really, really, really good skating defenseman, and who knows where he goes from here. So yeah, there are definitely some good ones out there. I watched the Spokane Chiefs game where they had a 6-5 with an empty net down one and Preston with a fairly open chance at the left dot. Instead of sniping at top quarter, he fired it into the goalie. Oh, well, he's a bust. That's too bad. That's too bad. Harry Nancy top 6 maybe. Harry Nancy is going to be an all-star every year he plays in the NHL. He's going to be in the NHL next year, and he's going to dominate. He's going to dominate every year, and it's over. Yeah, Harry Nancy, the GOAT, just the GOAT. He's the guy. It's, in all seriousness, I do really, really like Harry Nancy, and he's having a great year. He's playing well. I saw him playing with Pierce Bouilly, and I think they complement each other really, really well. Both their playing styles, I think, intersect impressively and in good ways. Faroe Islands just beat Czechia in the World Cup qualifier. What? Are you kidding me? And the Czech coach got fired. I need to see this. Yeah, so the Faroe Islands are still in it. That's hilarious. Yeah, Leafs for Cup because of Harry Nancy. Yeah, exactly. AJ knows what he's talking about. With Tinuslu Koblar, first line center, offsetting Austin Matthews. How does this? Jeez. Yo, the Faroe Islands are 4-3? That's the bigger story here. Not only did they beat Gibraltar, but they beat Montenegro. They lost to Croatia 1-0. What is happening? That's the bigger story. The Faroe Islands have won 4 games of their group, and they are 1 point out of going to the playoffs with how many games left? 1 more game for them to play. Who are they playing? Oh, Croatia. Oh, boy. Well, the Czechs have... Okay, so they're not going to get through because the Czechs are going to play Gibraltar, and I don't think Gibraltar has ever won a game at anything. So they won a game against Liechtenstein in 2022. I think the Faroe Islands might be cooked, but the fact that they beat the Czech Republic is pretty wild. That's wild. Even Montenegro is a pretty good team, I think. And yeah, up the Faroe Islands all the way. I'll wrap them forever. How good is the 09 NTDP group? I have not seen nearly enough to tell you. I don't know. The Finnish 09s do look good. Canada will have a very good group as well. I agree. Sweden will have a good group. I really wish Russia's 09s, man, like those guys are like, you go look at the 09s in the MHL and how well they're doing. Like Sergei Skvortsov is already wearing a letter for Nizhny Novgorod. Like the 09s in Russia are looking darn good, and I wish they were capable and able of, and that's not me saying that the events transpiring that led to them being banned should be, forgotten and waved away. But, it's unfortunate because they are a very, very good group of players. And I know that the Russian hockey folks that be are also rightfully very excited about them. Nazar Privalov, Sergei Skvortsov, Vladimir Shtyrkunov, all having great seasons. Roman Kozhevnikov I really like. Like a lot of these guys I think are real good players. Who else? There's the kid on Omsk, the defenseman. I forget what his name is. Mozhukin, Vladimir Mozhukin, that's the one. Yeah, they've got some good players. And there's a goalie that was really good too, I think. Something like that. But yeah. It's fun though. I'll be watching the under 17s. It's fun. Damn, I'll be 31 in January. Got to get as much beer in me as possible before then. Yeah. I mean, I don't know when it's going to happen for you, I don't know when it's going to happen for you. But for me, I have crossed that Rubicon. I have gone beyond that point, and I don't, and honestly, I'm now on the other side of it. Like, the only alcohol I really enjoy anymore is whiskey, just straight neat whiskey, or if it's summertime, like a gin and tonic. That's basically it. Outside of that, I could live with it. If beer disappeared from the face of the planet until the day that I died, I don't think I would miss it. I know that might be controversial to a lot of people, and I'm not saying that it should be wiped from the face of the planet. It's just my personal tastes have changed over the years. And now I've sort of whittled it down to what do I genuinely enjoy doing. And not only do I enjoy whiskey and gin and tonics in the summertime, but I enjoy talking to all of you, And so we're getting down to the end of it, so let's get down to here. As someone who lives in Europe that loves watching the NHL, I feel you. Much more practical to go to bed early and wake up for the 4 a.m. games. That's true, yeah. I mean, I've always felt bad for Europeans with the time zone thing. It's unfortunate. There's obviously way more of a demand for Europeans to watch the NHL than there is for North Americans to watch European leagues. So, and I mean, hey, if you want to watch European leagues, it's great because they're on all day long. But unfortunately, in reality, it's not how it works. Unfortunately, because the Earth is not flat, with constant day-night cycles that are the same for everybody, we got to live with our time zones. Nancy versus Kindle for every year they're both in the league. I agree. Why does Nylander suck? Because he's Swedish. He's handsome and Swedish. That's why. And OEL is gonna win the next Norris Trophy. I don't think so. I know that's rage bait for AJ, but probably not. I think I might hand it to Dylan McIlwraith this year. He's gonna be so mean and nasty that no one's ever gonna dare challenge him, and that makes him a good defenseman, right? Germany has solid hockey prospects. There are a couple. We'll see. I don't know. They have a couple, but I don't know if it's like growing, unfortunately. Did you hear him earlier? Yeah. The Swedish 09s did not look good. I mean the Finns next year are very, very good. It's just, I think that maybe I'm wrong, but I know there are some Swedish people that are excited about the 09s, but the Finns do look good. The two games they played earlier this season was tighter, but the Finns I think have the better class, but yeah. Genuine thoughts on Fabian Lysell. Oh my God. Well, you know that. You know the thoughts on that. Hoping for the best, not surprised he's where he is. We all can't be Ivan Fomin, right? We all can't be Typhoon Primorsky-Kry's greatest player ever that they've created. Anyway, on that note, we've run past 4:00. Dead air. That means we're done. I think we're going to call it for the day. This was a lot of fun. AJ, you're in the chat. I don't know if you're going to be here Monday night, but either way, we're back on our regular schedule. Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll be back then. In the meantime, consider a Scouching.ca subscription or a Puck Prep subscription. It really helps us out. You go over to Scouching.ca. You got a bunch of tiers over there for all of your needs and wants, your dreams, everything. Oh, weird. My message isn't sending. Oh, there we go. And yeah, I mean, there's lots of tiers to check out. The super chatter at the beginning, or the member at the beginning, I will message you after this is over, and I'll give you your code for a free account if you so desire. You don't have to take it, but if you want it, it's yours. And yeah, check it out. We got some cool stuff over there. The NHLO performance stuff will also be updated at the end of the month, so look for that. But anyway, we'll see you Monday night. Thanks for joining me. This was a lot of fun, and yeah, we'll see you there. Bye.